Hi, and welcome to Cooking in Mike's Backyard. Today we're going to be making sausage. Now, sausage making can be a little intimidating, so for that reason, this video is going to focus as much on the process of making sausage than it is any particular type of sausage. Once you get comfortable with the equipment, the basic ingredients, and the process of making sausage making can be a huge amount of fun. Think about sausage making the same way you think about making a sandwich. When you go to make a sandwich, you start out with 2 pieces of bread. Whatever you choose to put in between those 2 pieces of bread, it's entirely up to you. You can put in roast beef, you can put in peanut butter and jelly. At the end of the day, when you put those 2 pieces of bread back together again, you have a sandwich. Sausage making is the same concept. Basically, simply, a sausage is nothing more than a stuffed sausage casing. Whatever you want to put into the sausage casing, you can. It's entirely up to you. It's whatever you're in the mood for. Today I'm in the mood for a spicy, sweet pork sausage with chunks of apple and garlic. All right, so let's talk a little bit about casing. You can get sausage casing at a butcher shop or online. It comes in a wide variety of sizes. They have small casings if you're making a breakfast sausage. They have large casings if you're making a salami or something not that big. Usually I use the medium-sized casing, which will create a sausage about the same diameter as a sausage that you'd buy at the store, like a hot link or an Italian sausage. So let's talk about materials. Casings come in different types. There's hog casing, beef casing, lamb casing. They're the most common. I've seen moose casing and vegetarian casing. All right, so there's no way around this. A sausage casing, a natural sausage casing, is a sterilized animal intestine. Now, if that grosses you out, makes you feel a little squeamish, try the vegetarian casing. I'm sure they're just as good. I've never tried them, but I'm sure they work just fine. Or don't use any casing at all, just make a sausage patty. Today we're going to be using a hog casing in the medium size. They come in these Ziploc bags, semi-dry. They're a little moist. They come in a big knot like that. So what you have to do is you have to sort them out and pull out as many casings as you think you're going to need. Today I think we're going to need about 3 casings, so I'm going to pull out 5 just in case. Once you get them pulled out, well, these are some long ones. In any case, we'll probably only use about 3 of these. Just put them in warm water for about 30 to 45 minutes until they rehydrate fully. Now, while the sausage casings are hydrating, let's talk a little bit about how you're going to stuff them. When I first started making sausages, I purchased this grinder. It's got an attachment in the front for filling casings. Now, the way this works is you feed the casing onto the cone in the front, and you just put your filling into the bottom. An auger spins and presses the meat through the tube out into the casing. Now, to tell you the truth, though I use this for about a year, I don't really like the way it fills the casings. It has a tendency to make air pockets, and to really make it work well, you need 3 or 4 arms. Now, though this is not a very good filler, it's an excellent grinder. Now, you can get pre-ground meat, ground chicken, ground turkey, ground pork, whatever you want to make your sausage out of at the grocery store, but buying pre-ground meat doesn't allow you to control the texture of the sausage. So this grinder came with 3 different size grinding plates: large, medium, and small, or if you'd rather, venti, grande, and tall. Now, by using these 3 different grinders, you can control the texture of your sausage. If you were just to run the meat through this grinder, you're going to end up with a pretty chunky sausage. As you work your way down the plates, it's going to become smoother. Now, today I'm looking for a sausage with a pretty smooth texture, so I'm going to run it through all 3 grinder plates, one at a time. So let's grind some meat. Today we're going to be using pork cushion meat. Pork cushion is part of the pork shoulder. It's the part they trim off before they package the shoulder. I've cut this pork cushion into 1-inch cubes to accommodate the grinder. Pork shoulder is great for sausage because it's about 15 to 20% fat. Now, for a really good juicy sausage, you're going to want 30% fat. You can make it with just the pork cushion without adding any other fat to it, but it's going to be more dry than I think I'm wanting today. Now, this is about 8 pounds of pork cushion. If you watched my video on brisket, we had to trim a lot of fat off the brisket before we smoked it. And I told you in that video to keep the fat, put it in the freezer, we would find other uses for it. Well, this is one of those uses. In order to bring the fat content up to what I want, I'm going to have to add about 12 ounces of fat. I'm going to take the fat out of the freezer, let it thaw, and cut it up into 1-inch cubes and add about 12 ounces. All right, so after I've cut the fat up into 1-inch cubes, I'm going to put it in and intersperse it among the pork cubes. Now, if you didn't pay attention during the brisket video or haven't watched it yet, you can always get beef fat from your butcher. Just go in and ask for the trimmings. They may not have them that day, but you can ask them to save the trimmings from the day before and then just pick them up. All right, so now that this is all interspersed, we're going to run it through the grinder. Okay, to start the grinder, it's going to make some noise, so I'm going to tell you now what you're going to do. What you're going to do is, after you start the grinder, you're going to drop the meat into the hopper. Use this device right here to push it down. Don't stick your fingers in there, they'll get tore off. So let's fire it up and we'll start grinding meat. You see it coming out. So that's the that's the large size grind. Start out with that. You could actually stuff a sausage with that, but you're gonna end up with a chunky texture. So we're gonna grind up this meat. I'll show you what it looks like when it comes through the second grinder and then the final grinder. All right, so we've run the pork through the large plate, and as I said, it's pretty coarse. So what we're gonna do now is, rather than run it right through the next 2 size plates down, I'm gonna spice it now. And that way the grinder, as it's churning the meat and grinding it, will also do some mixing for me. So I'm making, as you recall, I want something sweet and spicy. So I'm starting out with 1/3 cup of brown sugar. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of coarsely ground black pepper, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and 1 teaspoon of paprika. I'm not going to do the apples and garlic at this phase, because what I want is a chunky bite of apple and garlic. So I'm going to wait until it's all the way ground and then add chopped up apples and garlic to keep it the consistency that I want. All right, so after you get your spices all mixed up, you're just going to sprinkle it through the meat. And after you get it in there, just churn it around. Like I said, the grinder is going to do most of the work for you, but you want to keep from getting pockets of, just intense spice flavor. All right, so after you get it mixed up, we're going to run it through the medium plate, and I'll show you the texture it comes out after we do that. All right, so we ran it through the second grinder plate, and then we ran it through the small grinder plate, and I just wanted to show you the difference in texture. So this is really what we're going for. If you squish it together, it's going to end up with a very smooth sausage. Okay, so now that we've gotten the meat ground to the degree we wanted, we're going to mix in the apples and garlic. What I've done is, this is an entire head of garlic. I've chopped it fine, and then I just very lightly sauteed it, just so that it's not quite as crisp as raw garlic would be. You just want to sprinkle it evenly on the meat. We're going to, after we get it sprinkled in there, we're going to fold it in and mix it thoroughly. Also, at the same time, I've chopped up 1 Granny Smith apple, into pieces about that size. And I'm going to intermix that in there as well. All right, so I've mixed the apple and garlic in there pretty thoroughly. My hope is that it'll be evenly spread out of the sausage, so that when you get a bite, maybe you'll get a little taste of garlic, maybe a little taste of apple. And that sweet spiciness that we're looking for. All right, so earlier I mentioned I didn't like the way the grinder stuffed the sausage. So I went out and I got this sausage stuffer. It's a really great design. It mounts onto the table. The top part slides over. You stuff the sausage into the center of the tube, and then you just crank it down and it presses the sausage out into the casings. Okay, so after you've gotten the tube filled with the sausage meat, just crank it down and fill the casing tube to the end. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take a casing out of the warm water and just wring it dry. Not wring it, I'm sorry. Just run it through your fingers to get the excess water off. Now, the casing tubes are just that, they're tubes. You have to they're a little bit slippery, but you basically find the end, and there should be an opening right there. So you're going to take that opening and just feed it onto the tube. Like that. And then slowly slide the casing onto the casing arm. letting it bunch up at the end. All right, so after you've got the casing fed onto the wand, just tie a knot in the end of it and then gently crank down and fill the casing in. Now you don't want to crank too quickly, because what will happen is you'll end up splitting the casing. But you can control it with one hand while you crank with the other. Whoops. Now if you get a spot like that you're not happy with the degree of fill, just pull it back a little bit and then refill it. All right, so after you got the sausage casing filled, you might have to play around with it a little bit. It's not an easy thing to do, but once you get a technique down, it works pretty well. So what I do is, I'm gonna press the sausage to about the length I want, about that long, and I'm gonna twist it clockwise. Then I'm gonna move on to the next sausage, get it to about the thickness and length that I want. But this is important. This one I'm going to twist counterclockwise so that this one tightens up more. If you keep twisting the same direction, what's going to happen is you're going to be twisting one up and then you'll be untwisting the other. So I turn that one this way. This one I'm going to turn this way, and it's going to tighten up that twist. So you do that all the way around until you have the whole thing twisted, and then you tie the end off. All right, so after you get all the sausages twisted up at the length you like, it's okay if you have a little bit at the end like this one. Later tomorrow we're going to smoke these sausages and we're going to have to check the internal temperature. And as soon as you put a temperature probe in there, it's going to break the skin and all the juice is going to squirt out. So it's okay to have a little one at the end. We're going to use this to test the temperature of the sausages, and it may be dry. Worst comes to worst, the dog will eat it. But in any case, what we're going to do after we've got them all twisted up, we're going to put them into the refrigerator on a cookie sheet on a sheet pan, uncovered, and let them rest for about 24 hours before you smoke them. Okay, so we've had the sausages in the refrigerator overnight. We're just going to arrange them onto a smoking rack and place them in the smoker at 225 degrees. Probably take about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. You want an internal temperature of 165 degrees. Today we're going to be smoking them with cherry wood. Okay, the sausages are done now. They were in for about 2.5 hours. Had a little bit of rain while they were smoking, but it didn't stop them from smoking really nicely. So it's time to cut them up and have a taste. So they're really nice and tender, and they're plump. I cooked up about half of them. I'm going to freeze the other half for the sausages that we made. Let's just cut this in half. One for the cameraman and one for me. So it has pieces of apple and pieces of garlic. I think it's time that we gave it a little taste. You can see the smoke ring, smoke permeated in a really good amount. I'm pretty hopeful about these guys. It's really tasty. It's got good spice. I think next time maybe bring the fat up a little higher. It's a little drier than I'd like, but it's still really, really good. All right. I hope you liked the video. I hope you're a lot more comfortable now with the concept of making sausage. I urge you to experiment. Make whatever you want. If you like the video, hit subscribe or hit the like button or both. I think next time, maybe like a beef and potato with cheese sausage, or maybe like a turkey with stuffing sausage. All right, have a good day. I almost forgot one for the dog. Good boy.